I didn't find out my inheritance was gone at a lawyer's office. I found out at a family dinner, smiling like an idiot while my mother announced it like it was nothing. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her, but then I saw my brother's face, calm, expectant, victorious. That was the night I realized this wasn't just inheritance drama. It was a lifetime of favoritism finally getting its reward. I'm the oldest daughter, the reliable one, the one who stayed close, called every week, showed up when things fell apart. And my brother? He was the golden child, always had been. Growing up, I learned early what favoritism looked like in our house. He got praised for breathing. I got, "You can do better," for trying my hardest. If he failed, it was bad luck. If I failed, it was a personal flaw. Still, I told myself it didn't matter, because I believed my mother loved us equally, just differently. That belief kept me quiet for years. When my father passed away, everything changed. Not dramatically, not all at once, just enough to make me uneasy. Mom started saying things like, "Your brother needs more help than you. You're stronger, you'll be fine. You don't need money the way he does." At first, I didn't argue. I had my own life, my own job, my own responsibilities. I wasn't greedy, I wasn't waiting for an inheritance, but what I didn't realize was that decisions were already being made, without me in the room. Behind polite smiles and Sunday dinners, something ugly was forming, a quiet family betrayal wrapped in concern and excuses. The night of the dinner, my mother raised her glass and said, "I've decided to give your brother the house. It just makes sense." No warning, no discussion, no acknowledgement that my father's wishes had ever included me. I laughed nervously, waiting for her to continue, to say part of it, to say temporarily. She didn't. That was when the truth settled in. This wasn't about need, it wasn't about fairness, it was about choosing him, again. In that moment, something inside me cracked, not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't ask why, because deep down I already knew. This wasn't just inheritance drama, it was family betrayal that had been rehearsed my entire life, and I was done pretending it didn't hurt. What they didn't know, what no one at that table realized, was that I was finally paying attention, and once I did, everything started to change. After that dinner, nothing looked the same anymore. Not the house I grew up in, not my mother's voice on the phone, not my brother's sudden interest in family gatherings. Everything felt rehearsed. My mom started calling more often. At first, I thought it was guilt, but the calls weren't apologies. They were explanations. "You know your brother's situation," she'd say. "He's always struggled more than you. You're independent. You don't need this." Every sentence sounded reasonable on its own. Together, they formed a quiet form of gaslighting. Whenever I hesitated, she'd sigh, deep and tired, as if I was the burden now. "You're not angry, are you? You wouldn't fight family over money. Your father would want peace." That's how family betrayal often works. It doesn't scream, it whispers until you start doubting yourself. My brother stayed silent, too silent. He never mentioned the house directly, but he talked about renovations, about future plans, about how hard things had been for him. Always him. One afternoon, I stopped by the house unannounced. I needed something from my old room. That's when I saw it. New documents on the kitchen table, legal papers, my mother's handwriting in the margins. The will had been updated months ago. Months, while she was still telling me nothing is decided yet. That was when my confusion turned into clarity. This wasn't sudden, it wasn't emotional. This inheritance drama had been carefully arranged. When I asked her about the paperwork, she smiled softly, the kind of smile meant to calm a child. "Don't make this into something ugly," she said. "Your brother just needs stability." I realized then my role had already been assigned. I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the obstacle. Every time I tried to speak, she reframed it. If I questioned fairness, I was selfish. If I asked for transparency, I was suspicious. Classic favoritism dressed up as concern. And the worst part? I almost believed her. That's the danger of emotional manipulation. It works best when it's familiar, when it comes from someone you love. I started replaying memories. Birthdays where my gifts were practical. Holidays where his mistakes were forgiven instantly. This wasn't new. The inheritance just exposed it. But I still didn't fight. Not yet, because anger would have made me predictable, and predictability is dangerous when you're surrounded by people who underestimate you. So I listened. I observed. I let them believe I had accepted my place. And that's when I began to understand something crucial. They thought the story was over. They had no idea it was only just beginning.
I didn't plan to confront her that day. I had promised myself I would stay quiet, watch, wait, keep my emotions where they couldn't be used against me. But sometimes the truth doesn't wait for permission. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. My mother called, her voice unusually formal. "I think we should talk," she said. Those words never mean anything good. I drove over in silence, rehearsing calm responses in my head. Not accusations, just questions. She was already sitting at the dining table when I arrived, a folder in front of her, thick, official. That folder felt heavier than it looked. She didn't offer me a drink. She didn't ask how I was. Instead, she slid the folder toward me and said, "I need you to understand why this is the right decision." Inside were copies of the updated will. Clear, final, legally airtight. My name was there. Once. Then crossed out. I stared at the page longer than I should have. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I needed time to breathe. "This isn't about money," I said carefully. "It's about being excluded." She sighed, like I was exhausting her. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she replied. "You've always been too sensitive." That sentence hit harder than anything else. Too sensitive. Not hurt, not disappointed, just flawed. That's when the weight of the family betrayal finally crushed me. I felt something give way inside my chest. A tightness I'd carried for years suddenly had nowhere to go. I asked her one last question. "Did Dad know?" She hesitated. Just for a second. But that second told me everything. "No," she said. "He trusted me." The room went quiet. That pause, the space between her answer and my reaction, felt endless. My father's voice echoed in my head, his belief in fairness, his constant reminders that we were equals. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. This inheritance drama wasn't just about favoritism. It was about erasing me. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded. Because the moment you see someone clearly for the first time, you stop needing their approval. I stood up, thanked her for being honest, and walked out of the house I once called home. In the car, my hands shook on the steering wheel. My chest felt hollow.
That was the breaking point. Not the will, not the house, but the realization that loyalty, love, and sacrifice meant nothing in a system already designed to betray me. And as I drove away, one thought repeated in my mind. If they were willing to rewrite the past, I would quietly rewrite the future. I didn't disappear after that day. I did something far more effective. I became agreeable. I answered my mother's calls with calm politeness. I congratulated my brother on his future plans. I smiled at family gatherings like nothing had changed. That was the first mistake they made. They thought silence meant surrender. In reality, I was collecting clarity. I started by revisiting old conversations, emails, text messages, casual remarks my mother had made over the years. I'm just holding things until we decide. Your father wanted it fair. You'll be taken care of. Those words mattered more than she realized. I scheduled a consultation with an estate attorney, quietly, not to fight, to understand. That's when I learned something interesting. The updated will was legal, but the process wasn't clean. My father's assets had been moved slowly, intentionally, accounts consolidated, titles transferred for convenience, all done under the assumption that no one would question it. Classic inheritance drama, the kind built on trust and favoritism. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. Instead, I asked questions, harmless ones. When did Dad change that? Who suggested the updates? Was there a witness? Every answer contradicted the last. My brother slipped first. He bragged one evening about finally having control over the house, about how Mom understood him better than anyone else. He said it casually, proudly. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just family betrayal, it was collaboration. Meanwhile, my mother grew nervous. She started reminding me that lawyers make things messy, that dragging this out would hurt everyone. Fear always reveals itself early. I kept my tone soft, reassuring. I just want peace, I told her, and I meant it, just not in the way she imagined. I began documenting everything. Dates, statements, shifts in behavior. No accusations, no threats, just facts. Because real revenge doesn't look like anger, it looks like patience. They thought they were safe because I wasn't reacting, because I wasn't demanding anything. But what they didn't realize was this. When people believe they've already won, they stop being careful. And careless people leave trails. I wasn't planning to take anything from them. I was planning to let the truth do what it does best, surface on its own, quietly, inevitably. And when it did, they wouldn't be able to talk their way out of it. Karma didn't arrive with a bang. It arrived with paperwork. One quiet morning, my mother called me, her voice tight, controlled, unfamiliar. She didn't say hello. There's been a complication, she said. That word again, complication, the same one she used whenever something slipped out of her control. It turned out the house transfer had triggered a routine review. Nothing dramatic, just questions. Questions about timing, about signatures, about why assets were moved when my father was already declining. The same questions I had been asking, politely, for months. My brother panicked first. He called me late at night, suddenly emotional, suddenly confused. "You didn't say anything, did you?" he asked. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "How do you feel?" Just that. That's when I knew the inheritance drama had reached its turning point. The attorney requested statements, then documents, then explanations that couldn't be rehearsed in advance. My mother's stories stopped lining up. Dates shifted, details blurred, her confidence cracked. For the first time, favoritism wasn't protecting anyone. It was exposing them. I stayed out of it, legally,
emotionally. I answered questions honestly, nothing more. No accusations, no embellishments, just the truth. And the truth has weight. The review uncovered inconsistencies, not enough for criminal charges, but enough to reopen conversations that were supposed to be buried. The house wasn't frozen, but it wasn't secure either. My brother lost something more valuable than property: certainty. The confidence he wore like armor vanished overnight. His tone changed, his posture shrank. Suddenly, he wasn't the golden child anymore. He was just a man who had benefited from family betrayal and now had to explain why. My mother tried to reach me again, this time softer. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "I just wanted what was best." That sentence used to break me. Now it sounded empty, because what's best had never included me. Karma didn't take everything from them. It didn't need to. It took their peace, their control, their certainty that I would always stay silent. That's the thing about quiet revenge. It doesn't destroy lives. It corrects narratives. And once the narrative shifts, everything else follows. They had spent years rewriting my place in the family, minimizing, justifying, excluding. Now the story was changing again, this time without their permission. I thought winning would feel louder, more satisfying, more dramatic, but what I felt instead was quiet. After everything settled, there were no celebrations, no apologies that meant anything, no moment where my mother suddenly understood me, and strangely, I didn't need one. The inheritance drama changed the family dynamic forever, but it didn't turn me into someone angry or bitter. It simply clarified who I was and who I was no longer willing to be. I stopped calling as often, not out of spite, out of self-respect. I set boundaries I had never been allowed to set before. Shorter conversations, neutral topics, no explanations. My brother faded into the background of my life, not punished, not forgiven, just irrelevant. That's when I realized something important. Favoritism doesn't just damage the ignored child, it quietly ruins the one who benefits from it too. My brother never learned accountability, never learned independence, and now, without my silence protecting him, he looked lost. I didn't enjoy that. I just accepted it. My relationship with my mother became polite but distant. She tried, in her way, to reconnect, but trust doesn't regenerate just because time passes. Some forms of family betrayal don't end with shouting matches or permanent estrangement. They end with emotional distance, the kind that feels colder than anger. I used to believe love meant endurance, that loyalty meant swallowing discomfort. I was wrong. Love without fairness becomes control. Loyalty without respect becomes self-betrayal. And revenge, real revenge, isn't about watching someone suffer. It's about refusing to suffer quietly ever again. I built a life that didn't revolve around approval, a life where my worth wasn't negotiated at a dinner table, and in that space I found something I never expected: peace. Not because everything was fair, not because everything was fixed, but because I finally stopped trying to earn a place I already deserved. Sometimes walking away isn't losing, it's choosing yourself before bitterness chooses you. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. You don't heal by being chosen. You heal by choosing yourself. So now when I look back on that night, the dinner, the announcement, the smile that hid everything, I don't feel rage. I feel clarity. And clarity, I've learned, is the one thing no one can ever take from you again. If your family had chosen someone else over you, would you have fought louder or walked away sooner?